Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the fuel pump assembly in this 2009 Chevy Suburban. If you need parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. I'm going to disconnect the battery, take a 10mm socket and ratchet underneath here on the negative post. You can take this bracket off if you need to, but it's not impossible to do it without. Just wiggle the terminal back and forth. Just grab that. Disconnect that, set it aside. I'm going to raise the vehicle. I'm using a 2-post lift. If you're doing this at your house, you can use a jack and jack stance. When I start this, because these bolts are really rusty, we're not at the point of taking them out yet, but I am going to spray them down with rust penetrant. Try to get up in there behind them. There's that bolt right there, and then on the back strap, there's another bolt over here. Try to spray it into this bracket up here. Let that soak for a while I take apart some other stuff. Before we start to lower the tank, we want to disconnect some of these hoses. Disconnect this one right here. Just going to squeeze this. There's a little lock on here. As I squeeze it, should be able to pull it out. Twist it back and forth a little bit. Pull this out, set it aside. Need to disconnect this hose right here. This goes to the evap canister. Just squeeze right here. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to squeeze this. Pull it off. I use a right angle pick. Just get underneath here. These are really tricky to get off sometimes. There's a little lock under here. If you can get underneath the lock, just pull it out a little bit. And wiggle the hose back and forth. Pull that out. See, this is where those locks are. If you squeeze that, they're supposed to release. Generally, it's really hard to release those by squeezing it. This next hose we gotta disconnect. There's 2 little tabs, these little red tabs. You just push the tab in a little bit and then push it up. And there'll be a lock on the top. Then you can pull it up a little further. If you have to, you can get a screwdriver behind there or a pick. Just raise it up a little bit. We can wiggle this hose out. Just like that. There's the lock on that. It just goes up, goes down when you go to lock it back into place. All right, there's a vent hose that goes on top of the tank that actually goes over one of the cross members on the vehicle. We have to take that off, otherwise that'll break. This is going to be kind of similar to that evap canister. You got to squeeze and then try to push it off. And slide it off just like that. You want to make sure you take that off, otherwise this little adapter fitting could break. I'm going to remove the filler neck. I need to loosen up this worm clamp. I'll use an 8mm socket and a ratchet. Loosen up this clamp. Okay, that's nice and loose. I'm going to take a pick and get underneath the hose, loosen up the seal. The hose has been on there for a little while, so loosen that up. I'm just going to grab the hose and twist it a little bit. It might be kind of hard to take this off now. You might have to lower the tank a little bit to get this off completely. This hose is pretty tight on there. It's going to be easier if I lower the tank a little bit before I take this off completely, but at least it's loose. Now at the front of the fuel tank, we want to take this hose off. There's a lock on it. You just push the two little red things underneath. Push it up. Get this to unlock. Just like that, push it up. And we can grab the hose and just work back and forth a little bit. Be careful, it's plastic. Slide this off like that. All right. Now we're going to disconnect this fuel line right here. You're going to want to be careful because some of the fuel may spray out. Make sure you have safety glasses on and gloves. It's kind of hard to get to, but it's the same type lock system on this. Underneath the connector, you just push the two little tabs to release it. Push it through. Goes through like that. And we can carefully release the hose. Just wiggle it back and forth. And you might want to have a drain bucket in case any fuel comes out. Oh, just a little bit came out, not too much. All right, I'm going to use a transmission jack with a special fuel tank adapter on the top of it. You don't need to use this. This makes it a lot easier and a lot safer. If you're doing this at your house and you have a transmission jack, you could do it and try to balance it. Maybe if you had another helper or two, it would help. Make sure your fuel tank is as low as possible. Less than 1/4 of a tank is ideal. So now I'm just gonna support the fuel tank. I can adjust this so it sits on there properly. Now that that's supported, I can remove the straps. There's 2 straps that hold this on. Okay, now I'm gonna take these 2 bolts out. Use a 15mm socket, an extension, and a breaker bar. We'll loosen these up. It's important to use a breaker bar or a ratchet on these because if you use a pneumatic gun, you can ruin the J-nuts that are fastening these to the top. So they break very easily, so it's easier to just do it by hand. I'll loosen this one up as well. Once those are loose, I can switch to a ratchet. Now I'll take that bolt out. I can slide this strap down over here and grab the strap, lift it up, slide it out of the way. Pull that bolt out, this strap down, slide it up, and slide it out. Now we're gonna lower the tank a little bit. I still need to disconnect the filler neck. As it comes down a little bit. Just want to gently lower it. Make sure these hoses are out of your way. Just take this pry bar and pry back on this filler neck a little bit. That's out. I can lower this down a little bit more. Slide it back. I'm going to make sure that hose is out of the way that we removed earlier. That's good. Just drop it down some more. You want to make sure the tank's pretty level, so make your adjustments where you need to. Drop it down some more. There's an electrical wiring harness we need to disconnect from the sender. Drop it down a little bit more before we do that. The position of the filler neck isn't gonna pass the rear differential. So what we need to do is we need to tip the front of the tank up and push it forward over this cross member. Like that. So that the filler neck back here clears the rear differential. I'll lower the vehicle a little bit. Lower the fuel tank a little, slowly. Once it passes, I can adjust the level on this with the tank support. Make it a little bit easier and a little safer. And just with it angled a little bit, it shouldn't slide. If you had a lot of fuel in, you'd probably have some gas dumping out by now. So it's good to have it low. All right, so now cleared in the backside, I can pull the tank back a little bit. Level this out a little more, let it down a little more. And make sure it's cleared up front. All right, now that it's cleared, it's much easier to level this. You can hear the fuel sloshing around in there. All right, now it's pretty level. We're going to disconnect the electrical connector right here. There's a little lock tab on here. First we'll disconnect. This is the fuel tank pressure sensor right here. Push that, release that. I'm just gonna use a straight blade screwdriver to release this gray lock on this connector. Just need to pull it out a little bit. Then I can try to push down on the button or even take the screwdriver in from the back side here and then release the connector. Wiggle it back and forth, disconnect it. Now you can, if it makes you feel more comfortable, you can use a strap on the tank. And secure it to the jack. Slide this into here. This just makes it a little easier if you only have one person. It's less likely to fall. Now everything's cleared, we can lower the tank. Before I remove the fuel pump assembly, there's a lot of dirt and rocks in this area. I'm just gonna take some compressed air and this blowgun. We actually sell this at 1aauto.com. I'm gonna blow all this area out of the way. If you get some dirt that's stuck in there, you can take a screwdriver, try to loosen some of this up. Try not to stab the fuel tank when you're doing this. Remember, it's going to cause a lot of dust, so blow it away from you. I'm going to remove these two lines right here. There's two locks underneath here. I'm just going to push on the retainers underneath here. Try to push these up, just like that. If you need to use a screwdriver, you can get in underneath there. Push underneath. Screwdriver, just pry it up a little bit. Once those are released, you can slide the lines off. Slide those out of the way. Same with this one. A little bit of fuel's coming out, which is okay. Pause. Now we're going to remove the lock ring. They actually make special tools, adapters that you can use to take this lock ring off. You can connect it to a breaker bar. I don't have one of those, so what we're going to use is a brass punch. You want to make sure you use a brass punch because you won't have sparks. And you don't want to spark anything while you have gasoline around. So we'll use this brass punch and this hammer. We actually sell this hammer in a set from 1aauto.com. So there's a little brass end on it. Just give it a little tap. Go on one of these corners. You want to loosen it like you're loosening it clockwise, counterclockwise, I'm sorry. This way. There we go. It's pretty loose. All right, I'm just going to wipe some of this area up. All right, and then I can release the lock ring. Just lift it up. Slide it out of the way. There's still some stuff in here. I can use the blowgun again and get some of the dirt out of the way. Can take a little straight blade screwdriver, try to pry up on this a little bit. Just go all the way around, just like that. And there is a connector underneath here. There's a hose, so we're gonna have to pinch this, release it, just like that. We're gonna push that hose back in there. Slide the old pump out. I'm just going to drain a little bit of this back into the tank. I'm just going to grab a bucket or a drain pan, set it aside. Just going to take a rag, wipe some of this excess fuel up over here. We're going to want to clean this area right here because that's where the new seal goes. So get any of the sand and dust and dirt out of that valley right there. The new fuel pump assembly does not come with this little retainer that is on the old one. So we're actually going to take this off and transfer it over. You can slide this. Sometimes you just squeeze it a little bit and you can slide those out. Just squeeze that a little bit and then you can transfer it to over here. What I'm actually going to do is attach this to the line in the tank because that makes it easier to install the line because then we don't have to worry about it lining up. So I'm just going to reach in here, grab the line. This goes all the way to the front of the tank. And then reinstall this, slide it onto here. And then it's easier just to insert this onto the new fuel pump. We'll just leave that down there. Now that this area is nice and clean, I'll take this O-ring, just slide this into position here. That, and then take the new fuel pump assembly. I'm going to slide down the level sensor in first and level this out. Push this in a little bit. And before I completely put it back in, I have to grab that hose. It's a little tricky to grab the hose, but you can grab it. What might be easier is if you tie a little bit of fishing string around it, have it hanging out when you go to install this. And get that re-secured. That's locked in. Now make sure your O-rings all the way down, all the way around. And then this is going to line up right here. There's a little tab on the back. This is where it was located on the old one. You know, make sure where the lines come out of the fuel tank assembly, that's pretty much going in the right direction. Push this down a little bit. Take the lock ring, slide this over here first. Then I'll push this down. Might have to rock it back and forth a little bit. O-ring looks good. Take the lock ring, get that started. Once that's started, I can take my brass punch and my hammer, tap it back on. So now I'm just gonna go around clockwise, tighten this up. Remove these two little covers. These just keep dust out when the fuel pump is being stored. Take this, reinstall this line, and then lock it down. Same with this one. And lock it down. Oops. Make sure it's all the way down. Now we're going to get ready to raise the tank under the vehicle. One thing to keep in mind is the wires, the connectors. You want to be able to plug them in before you put the tank all the way up. Right now we can't put them up yet because it's not going to reach, but we'll connect those when we're ready. Now we want to make sure we angle the tank. I still can't connect the wires. Start to raise the tank. The front of the tank needs to be angled up so that I can pass it over this cross member. Just keep it tipped up, keep the back tip down. If you had less fuel in the tank when you're doing this, it'll be easier. If you have a safe way to drain the fuel, that would be ideal. If not, just be careful. I'm just trying to angle the tank a little more so that it goes up a little bit easier. I'll push it up, slide it up over that cross member, then I'll lift the jack. I want to make sure the filler neck in the back doesn't hit the differential. Now I can reach up. The electrical connectors are close enough that I can connect them. I'm gonna connect the fuel tank pressure sensor first. Just lock it in place. And then I will connect the fuel pump assembly connector. It's a little tricky to do this, but it's not impossible. And then lock that in place and then make sure the wire is routed properly. At this point, I'm going to remove the strap because the tank is safe up there. And make sure my filler neck's out of the way of the differential. It's good. Now I can raise the tank. Now I'm going to connect this hose that goes over this cross member up here. You want to make sure that goes over. And then I'll connect it once the tank's all the way up. This is the vent hose. Then I want to make sure my filler neck, as I'm raising the tank, I line up the filler neck. It's hard to get the filler neck on the fitting when the tank's all the way up. Slide that into position. All right, now I'm going to connect the hose on top of the tank. It's like a vent hose. This is the hose that went over the cross member. Just grab that, make sure it locks in place. That's good. All right, now we're gonna connect the front hose. This is the fuel pressure hose that goes in the front of the tank. Just slide this into position. And once that's all the way on, you can lock it down. Just push down on the lock tab. We're gonna connect this hose right here. Just connect those together. Once it's pushed in all the way, push down on the lock, just like that. Next, we're going to connect this hose to the evap canister. I'll connect the top one first. Push it on, and then push down on the lock. Lock it in place. We'll take the lower hose, line that in position. Might have to twist it a little bit, back and forth. Lock that in place. Connect this hose right here. Make sure it locks in place. There we go. At this point, we can tighten up this worm clamp on this filler neck. Just use my 8mm socket and ratchet. And just snug this up. Not too tight because the fuel tank is plastic. And that should be good. You can grab it, make sure it doesn't twist. Next we'll take the fuel tank strap, line it up top, put it in position there. If we have to raise the tank a little bit, just push it up a little bit. Take the bolt. Sometimes these are a little tricky to get in. You gotta push on the tank strap a little bit. That's pretty good. Do the same for the front one. That. Gonna go right here. Now I'm going to take a 15mm socket and an extension and a ratchet. I'm just going to snug these bolts up. I'm going to do the same for the rear. Now I can take a 15mm socket extension and a torque wrench. I'm going to torque these to 30 foot-pounds. Same with the back one. That's good. At this point, the tank is safely strapped up there. Now I can drop this lift, this transmission jack. Now we're going to reconnect the battery. Take this battery negative cable, put it back over the negative post. Take a 10mm socket and a ratchet. Tighten this up. It's nice and snug. At this point, our fuel pump is in, the battery is already connected. What you're going to want to do is, because there's all this air in the system, you're going to want to turn the key on for 10 seconds, then shut it off, try it again, cycle it a couple times, that'll purge the air out. And then you can recheck underneath, make sure there's no fuel on the ground. If there's no fuel, go ahead and start it and you should be good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.